Where are you at right now with the Omega thesis? It feels like we're getting close to a very, very suddenly part. There's so many things building up. Prices chopping along. It just seems like things are ripe for, I don't know, face melting. Hopefully not down to 58K, but never say never. Has your fundamental thesis changed at all? I guess would be the question.
No, I'm still expecting Omega very soon. And there are direct parallels to the Weimar mark when it was dying, that you started seeing very wild swing.
샘슨모우는 비트코인 업계에서 매우 잘 알려진 인물로 특히 비트코인 최대주의자로서 활동하고 있는 대표적인 인물 중 하나입니다. 그는 블록체인 기술 전반보다는 오직 비트코인 자체의 가치와 철학에 집중하며 전통 금융 시스템에 대한 대안을 주장하는 입장을 고수하고 있습니다. 그가 창립한 회사의 목표는 비트코인 채택을 전 세계적으로 확대하는 것으로 특히 국가 단위의 비트코인 채택을 추진하고 있으며 엘살바도르의 비트코인 법정화폐 채택을 공개적으로 지지하고 협력한 바 있습니다. 이런 그가 미국 정부의 비트코인 담보 국채 발행을 얘기하며 비트코인을 국가 전략 자산으로 편입하려는 현 미국 행정부에 대해 얘기합니다.
We're already seeing God candles very regularly, and I see people critiquing and saying, well, where's your God candle? But there have been 8 or 9 of them so far. We're seeing more volatility because Bitcoin is more valuable, so the swings are bigger now. It's just like when Bitcoin was at 1,000, right? When you had $100 swing, it's like, wow, that's crazy. And now it's normal. It's like, you don't even notice it. But we're seeing $10,000 swings. And then eventually it goes to $100,000 swings. So the Omega thesis is still very valid, and I think it is still coming. And what worries me, or I don't know if worry is the right word, but what concerns me is we're not getting that slow and steady rise, which means the rise is going to be far more violent, simply because we're not going up gradually, right? And if it's not gradually, then it's sudden. And I don't think we're going to go to 58K, but as you said, anything can happen in Bitcoin. But it's not that likely, and the reason is the composition of the hodler has changed. The structural composition has changed. It's not just like you and me and, Adam Back now. It is institutions holding MicroStrategy, like pension funds holding ETFs, investors in ETFs that have it in their Roth IRA or other investment vehicles that they're probably not going to touch. So it's a very different beast now than it was a few years back, right? You have people that bought IBIT, I don't know, let's say $50 some odd, or they bought IBIT when it launched at $20 some odd, right? Like, are they going to sell IBIT when it goes to 12 if there was a big drawdown? Probably not, right? For them, it's a different sort of unit bias. It's like 50 to 20, not from 50 to whatever, right? So they're less likely to sell, first of all, and then they're less likely to sell when it drops because it's less scary for them because it's a different numbering system, so to speak.
I think that's a really interesting point just about the composition of people that are holding Bitcoin right now. Because you're right, it's like it has fundamentally changed, like the ETFs and MicroStrategy. And I mean, even these now numerous other companies that are, raising money to hold Bitcoin or buying Bitcoin with free cash flow, whatever it may be, it seems to have been there's a different switch that's been flipped. Of course, everybody likes seeing number go up, right? Especially if you're holding Bitcoin, you like seeing that. That being said, I know, you and I both want as many people as possible to get onboarded to Bitcoin, to adopt Bitcoin at as low of a price as possible, because we kind of see the writing on the wall for what's coming. Is that where you're coming from there, where it's like people's, we're still very early, but time to be very early is running out and soon you'll just be regular early? Is that kind of what it comes down to?
I think so. I mean, the masses will be interested in Bitcoin when it's at 200, 300, 500K. And that's very normal, right? If you look at how ordinary people think, it's just like I see someone panicking and then I panic. There's very little foresight and planning ahead and doing research because everyone's busy with bread and circuses, right? And that's just how human civilization has evolved. And I think we're still in that very small minority, which we did the research and we went down the rabbit hole and we're listening to the Bitcoin podcast with Walker and everything like that. And yeah, you're very early if you're listening to this. And people seem to think they're not early because Bitcoin is at 80K or it went up to 108. But I still think we're very early because go back to that test again. Go to your coffee shop and ask them how much they know. The other thing I think is a very big component of it is people think that there's more supply than there is because, you know, we always say that there's only 21 million. The supply on the exchanges is going down. But then the counterpoint I see shot back is, well, then why is the price dropping? Right? But this has nothing to do with the supply. It's just people have to sell sometimes for various reasons. They could be liquidated. They could be deleveraging. They could be, you know, doing any number of things, or they're just panicking plainly. But the supply is dwindling, and I think that has to reconcile itself eventually. There are only 21 million coins. Several million are probably lost. Sailor has 500K. The ETFs have 1 point something million. And then Cynthia Lummis wants to buy 1 million. And if they launch the BitBonds, the ones designed by, sorry, I forgot the name, but the one for issuing $2 trillion of debt with 10% allocated to Bitcoin, that's $200 billion of Bitcoin, which is some 3 million some odd Bitcoin that they want to buy. That's really not sustainable. And even if you look at Sailor alone, he's taken off multiple times the amount of Bitcoin that will be mined this year. Just him alone, not counting everybody else. So Bitcoin is really already deflationary if you look at it from that perspective. So it just doesn't compute. And I think when things like this don't compute, it means that there's going to be a very fast reconciliation at some point, which is the Omega candle and a fast run to 1 million.
It does feel like the suddenly is going to really happen suddenly. Can you talk a little bit about those BitBonds and just like for the layman out there, what does that mean? What does that look like? What's the significance of that?
Right. So the proposal was for the U.S. government to issue debt that is backed by Bitcoin, 10% allocated to Bitcoin, and you get paid 1% interest. And there is a boost in the coupon payment up to 4.5%, I believe, and it's capped off with the Bitcoin gains. Yeah, and it's just a way to secure U.S. debt with Bitcoin, similar to the Bitcoin bonds that I designed for El Salvador. But I think it's a very different beast if the U.S. is issuing Bitcoin-backed debt compared to a developing country. It actually may preclude the ability for any developing nation to issue a Bitcoin bond at this point because U.S. debt is the safest debt, right? It's from the money printer itself. It's not a derivative, and it's very hard to default on that debt. So it's like, in terms of Bitcoin bonds, that's like AAA rated, right? Then everything else is downstream of that. But I think it's a valid strategy, and it's probably the most reasonable thing the U.S. could do at this point. Maybe I would increase it from 10 to 20%, but we'll see what happens. I think this is further out there. The Bitcoin bill will likely pass first, creating the reserve, and then this will probably come later. But everything seems to happen faster these days, so who knows?
You are right about that. Honestly, the fact that this executive order came out, the fact that this happened, less than 2 months into the administration, I think is pretty remarkable. It's impressive, honestly, because there's obviously this isn't the only thing on the president's plate. He's the president of the United States. He's got a lot of demands on his time. Do you think that Trump understands kind of the high-level game theory around this, like around the first mover advantage? He may not understand all the nuances of Bitcoin, but do you think he gets that game theory? Or is it just he's got people in his ear, they're telling him this is what we need to do, you made this promise, okay, I'll sign it, I'll do it. How deep do you think that knowledge goes?
Well, I would give him some credit that he understands the game theory of it. As for Bitcoin and the implications of everything he's done, I don't think he fully understands it. If you look at the signing of the EO, it's David Sachs answering his questions, and he's like, did I promise this? You believe in it? Do you think it's good? I'll sign it. Right? That doesn't sound like a Michael Saylor level of conviction and understanding to me, but I could be wrong. But yeah, I think he definitely does understand there is a first mover advantage, and I definitely think he knows that the goal is to become a Bitcoin superpower, because you want as much of the valuable thing that everyone else wants soon. So that's definitely a given.
샘슨모우는 지금도 여전히 비트코인은 매우 초기에 속하며 앞으로 비트코인은 극적인 가격 재평가를 맞이할 가능성이 높다고 평가하고 있습니다. 현재는 오메가 캔들이라 불리는 초고속 상승 국면 직전에 와 있으며 가격이 급격하게 요동치는 현상은 과거 시장 붕괴 전야와 유사하지만 이는 단순한 투기적 움직임이 아닌 구조적 수요 증가와 공급 고갈에서 비롯된다고 말하고 있죠. 우리는 객관적인 시각으로 투자를 해야 하고 지금 당장만 보고 투자할 게 아니라 미래를 보고 투자를 해야겠죠. 010-2472-0429 전화번호로 탈겜이 적어서 문자 보내주시면 2025년 비트코인과 코인 시장에 대한 분석, 정보들 공유해드리겠습니다. 현재 우리에게 중요한 것은 이러한 정보를 어떻게 활용할 것인가입니다. 지금까지 영상 시청해주셔서 감사하고요. 다음에 더 좋은 영상으로 찾아뵙겠습니다. 감사합니다.